What if I told you that the man the world just paid their final respects to wasn't really Pope Francis? What if the Vatican has been hiding something so shocking, even his own sister couldn't stay silent anymore? Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew about the Pope's final days. Prepare yourself, because this rabbit hole goes deeper than you can possibly imagine. This isn't just about a death, it's about power, prophecy, and the very soul of an institution teetering on the edge of revelation. For centuries, the Vatican has cultivated an image of unwavering faith and divine authority. But what happens when that image shatters? What happens when the walls of the Holy See start to crumble, revealing a truth so disturbing that it could shake the foundations of the Catholic Church and potentially the very structure of modern society? In a world where secrets lie hidden behind stained glass windows and whispers echo through cathedral halls, few revelations have ever rocked the foundation of the Catholic Church like this one. The Vatican has long been known as a place of deep tradition, rigid protocol, and layers of mystery. But recently, a shocking allegation has surfaced, one that's left even the most faithful Catholics stunned. At 77, Pope Francis's own sister, someone who has rarely spoken publicly about Vatican matters, has allegedly broken her silence. Her claim? That the body displayed at the Pope's funeral wasn't really his, and that the real body of Pope Francis is being hidden somewhere else. This video dives deep into this explosive controversy. We'll unpack the timeline leading up to the Pope's death, examine the claims made by his sister, look at footage and eyewitness testimony from the funeral, and raise the uncomfortable questions that have people worldwide asking, what is the Vatican really hiding? We will dissect the implications, examine the potential motivations, and confront the unsettling possibility that the world is being deliberately deceived on a scale never before witnessed in modern times. Has the world become so accustomed to manufactured realities, fabricated narratives, and deliberately curated disinformation, that a deception on this magnitude can be successfully engineered and maintained? If you've been following the developments, or if this is the first you're hearing of this theory, stick around. You're about to hear facts, connections, and behind-the-scenes details that have never been revealed on mainstream news. We're going to analyze not just what happened, but why it happened, exploring the complex web of power, politics, and religious doctrine that could have led to such a drastic and unsettling scenario. By the end of this video, you'll be asking yourself, was Pope Francis really laid to rest, or is something much darker at play? Were the images beamed across the globe carefully constructed to maintain a facade of normalcy, or were they a calculated move in a game far more complex than most of us can fathom? Let's rewind the clock just a few weeks before the Vatican announced Pope Francis's passing publicly. Pope Francis was said to be in stable but monitored condition after a brief hospitalization due to a respiratory infection. Vatican spokespeople repeatedly assured the world that the Holy Father was responding well to treatment. They released carefully worded statements, emphasizing his resilience and his commitment to his duties. But behind closed doors, insiders were whispering that something felt off. A Vatican aide speaking anonymously to Italian media revealed that Pope Francis was rarely seen, even by his closest assistants, during his final days. Curtains in his personal quarters were drawn at all times. Visitors were turned away with excuses. Some even claimed the Pope was transferred from his usual living quarters to an undisclosed private location within the Vatican. Access was restricted, explanations were vague, and a sense of unease permeated the normally structured environment of the Vatican. Was this merely to shield him from unnecessary stress, or were there other, less benevolent considerations driving the decisions? What makes this even more suspicious is that high-ranking cardinals reportedly had difficulty reaching him directly, even those responsible for major Vatican operations. Communications went dark, and access to the Pope became tightly restricted. The usual channels of information seemed to dry up, replaced by a carefully controlled flow of carefully curated press releases. Was this merely to protect a frail man, or was something far more calculated unfolding? Was this the first sign that a power struggle was brewing, or that a long-planned operation was finally coming to fruition? Now here's where it gets chilling. 2 days before the official announcement of his passing, a longtime Vatican gardener claims he saw unusual activity in the rear of the Apostolic Palace after hours. He reported to Italian police that he saw what looked like a stretcher being rushed out a back entrance with 2 priests flanking either side, neither of whom were part of the Pope's personal medical team. The gardener, a man of faith and principle, felt compelled to report what he had witnessed. His testimony paints a picture of clandestine activity, furtive movements, and a general atmosphere of secrecy that is deeply unsettling. And then, radio silence. The Vatican released its formal statement 48 hours later. Pope Francis had died peacefully in his sleep. But they didn't allow for any external autopsy, no independent medical examination. And that immediately triggered skepticism from outsiders who followed papal transitions closely over the years. Why the rush? What was the Vatican so eager to conceal? The lack of transparency only fueled the growing sense of unease and suspicion. But it was what came next that blew the lid off this quiet storm. Just hours after the funeral, the Pope's sister made a cryptic comment in a recorded interview that sent shock waves through religious circles. She said, "That is not my brother." But what did she really mean by that? Was she speaking metaphorically or literally? Was she expressing the grief of losing a loved one, or was she signaling something far more profound and disturbing? When Maria Elena Bergoglio, the Pope's only living sibling, appeared on Argentine media shortly after the Vatican funeral, no one expected her to drop a bombshell. The world watched with bated breath, unsure of what to expect. Dressed in modest black and visibly shaken, Maria seemed cautious but determined. The interviewer, trying to stay respectful, asked her how she was coping with her brother's passing. But instead of a typical answer, Maria leaned forward and whispered something that made the entire studio freeze. "I don't know who that was in that coffin, but it wasn't Jorge." The host tried to clarify, "You mean spiritually, like he's gone now?" But Maria doubled down, "No, I mean that wasn't his body. That was not my brother's face." Her words hung in the air, heavy with implication. She claimed that during the private family viewing held behind closed doors just before the public funeral, she noticed several things that didn't add up. She said the man in the casket had a thinner jawline, slightly different ears, and a scar above his left brow that Pope Francis never had. "I know my brother," she asserted, her voice filled with both grief and conviction. Her statement challenged not only the Vatican's narrative, but also the very nature of reality itself. Vatican loyalists dismissed her as a woman grieving and confused. But as reporters began digging deeper, more inconsistencies started surfacing. The world started paying attention. People began questioning everything they thought they knew. For instance, no fingerprint verification. While it's standard for identities to be confirmed by papal medical officers, no such documents were released to the public. Sealed coffin. Unlike past popes who were displayed for public viewing with open caskets for at least a portion of time, Pope Francis's body was only viewed from a distance under heavy glass with dim lighting. No third-party confirmation, no independent body, medical, governmental, or even ecclesiastical, was allowed to confirm the body's identity. The lack of transparency was deafening. Then came the photographs. Side-by-side comparisons of Pope Francis and the man in the coffin started going viral on social media. Thousands of people noted subtle differences in facial structure, skin tone, and even the positioning of the Pope's iconic silver cross around his neck. Was it really him, or a body double? The debate raged on, fueled by suspicion and doubt. The internet became a battleground of conflicting opinions, each side clinging to its own version of the truth. To add to the mystery, Maria Elena was reportedly visited by Vatican officials just days after her televised interview. And since then, she's gone completely silent. No public statements, no media appearances. Her family has declined all interviews, and her home in Buenos Aires has been under visible surveillance. The silence is deafening, the implications chilling. But the real twist? A leaked Vatican memo from the night before the funeral contained one sentence that has never been explained. Ensure decoy presentation is complete before sunrise. Who wrote it? What exactly does decoy presentation mean? And most importantly, where's the real body of Pope Francis now? The memo, like a phantom limb, pointed to a reality that defied easy explanation. The questions surrounding the Vatican's version of events grew with each new revelation. This is where things start to get even stranger and more unsettling. After Maria Elena's televised claim that the body shown wasn't her brother, the Vatican shifted gears, not by addressing the controversy, but by tightening its grip on every narrative. The Vatican's strategy was simple. Control the information. Control the narrative. Overnight, journalists found themselves blacklisted. Flights into Vatican City were quietly monitored. Even long-standing religious correspondents from Catholic networks were denied access to key events. The flow of information became increasingly constricted. A climate of fear settled over those who dared to question the official story. One source from within Vatican Radio, who asked to remain anonymous for fear of termination, said something chilling. There's a reason the cameras were kept at a distance during the funeral. We weren't just protecting the sanctity of the moment. We were hiding something. His words, spoken in hushed tones, revealed the extent to which the Vatican was willing to go to protect its secrets. But it didn't stop there. Pope Francis's medical team? Gone silent. The small circle of doctors who had overseen the Pope's declining health had previously been cooperative with media. But in the days following his death, their emails bounced, phone lines went unanswered, and their clinics in Rome were closed for indefinite renovation. No statements, no press conferences, no transparency. The silence was a wall, built to keep the truth from escaping. The morgue mystery. Italian medical insiders confirmed that the usual facilities where popes are prepared, San Camillo Hospital and the Vatican morgue, never received any paperwork for Pope Francis. That's right. No death certificate was registered in Italy during the claimed time frame. Was there a deliberate attempt to erase all traces of his passing from the official record? Even stranger, the surveillance footage from the Vatican's own internal security system, which normally operates 24/7 and is archived meticulously, was mysteriously corrupted for 36 hours spanning the alleged time of death. A spokesperson blamed a power surge, but Italian electrical officials quickly pushed back, stating that no surge was recorded anywhere in the Vatican grid that week. The explanation seemed flimsy, a convenient excuse to cover up something far more sinister. Eyewitnesses to the cover-up, a staff member at the Dis Sancta Martha, where Pope Francis resided, told a local journalist that she saw several large covered crates being moved out in the middle of the night 2 days before the funeral. She assumed it was artwork being transported until she saw the security detail, armed guards, diplomatic vehicles, and a cardinal overseeing the whole operation. Her account painted a picture of a carefully orchestrated operation, designed to move something of great importance under the cover of darkness. And then there's the spiritual silence. You'd think that if the Pope had passed peacefully, the Vatican would be flooded with tributes, televised retrospectives, and emotional statements from cardinals around the globe. But instead, the Church's messaging has been robotic, vague, and curiously void of emotion. One Catholic scholar from Georgetown called it the coldest papal farewell in modern memory. The absence of genuine emotion was palpable, a stark contrast to the outpouring of grief that normally accompanies the passing of a beloved leader. So, what is the Vatican hiding? Why the blackout? And most of all, if Pope Francis's real body wasn't in that coffin, then where is it now? Could it be that the Church knows more than it's letting on? And could Maria Elena's emotional plea have triggered a cover-up far bigger than we imagined? The questions are endless, the answers elusive. Let's dive deeper, because this is where the walls of the Vatican begin to whisper, and what they're saying might just send chills down your spine. It's here where we begin to explore whether the Pope truly died of natural causes, or if forces within the Vatican decided to take matters into their own hands. This is the part of the story that can expose the darker motivations behind the cover-up. Despite the Vatican's iron grip on information, a few brave voices from inside the Church have started to speak out, quietly, cautiously, and always anonymously. The Vatican is a world of secrets, and the people within are taught to protect those secrets above all else. Over the past few weeks, religious scholars, independent journalists, and podcasters feeding them fragments of a larger, darker story, and when pieced together, the puzzle becomes even more disturbing. These courageous individuals risk everything to get the truth out to the public, but are often silenced when they begin to scratch the surface of the larger, hidden truths. The disagreement before death. One insider from the Roman Curia revealed that days before Pope Francis was declared dead, there had been a major fallout between the pontiff and several senior cardinals. The reason, according to the source, Pope Francis was drafting a final document that would radically challenge centuries-old church practices, including a softened stance on same-sex unions, a push for female deacons, and full transparency on the Vatican Bank's scandal-plagued finances. This document, rumored to be called the Renewal Letter, has never surfaced. But here's the shocking part. The very cardinals opposed to this letter were the ones who announced the Pope's death and oversaw his final rites. Did they see the Renewal Letter as a threat to the traditional teachings of the Church? Did they fear the document would tear the Church apart? The blocked autopsy, another shocking revelation. A group of clergy reportedly requested a third-party autopsy of the Pope's body due to unexplained inconsistencies in the timeline of his death. That request was denied. No public medical report was ever released, and Vatican law, which allows them full autonomy from Italian jurisdiction, meant that no civil authorities could intervene. The Vatican refused to submit their reasons for refusing the request, citing the need for respect and privacy for the deceased. A Vatican archivist, speaking under the alias Father M., claimed that shortly after the Pope's death was made public, all documents signed within the last 2 weeks of his life were sealed, not archived, not published, but sealed in a private vault beneath the Apostolic Palace. The missing documents could have been a key to determining what happened, but they were kept hidden from the public. Whatever Francis was working on before he passed, Father M said, someone decided the world should never see it. The disappearing paper trail, the most haunting detail. Maria Elena, Pope Francis's sister, allegedly had in her possession several private letters written by her brother in the weeks before his death, letters he asked her to release if anything ever seemed off. What did these letters contain? Were they just private messages, or did they hold secrets that could alter the course of the Catholic Church? According to a Spanish journalist, she showed him a portion of one letter during a confidential meeting. In it, Pope Francis wrote, "If they ever present you with my face, but you do not feel my spirit, then know that I have not truly returned to the Father." These words suggest that Pope Francis knew his life might be in danger. It can also be considered that he had premonitions that his funeral would not be what it seemed. Days later, Maria Elena stopped speaking to media entirely. Her lawyer issued a single statement claiming she had been advised not to comment further for safety reasons. What dangers was she facing? Who was threatening her? The mystery surrounding Maria Elena deepened. Surveillance and shadows, and there's more. Anonymous reports claim Maria Elena's apartment in Buenos Aires has been under quiet surveillance. Several journalists trying to contact her have reported being followed. One even said her email was hacked, and strange messages were sent from her account afterward. The truth of her personal risk has been a shadow over her silence. As for the letters, no one has seen them again. The letters have likely been confiscated and hidden or destroyed to stop any release of information that could damage the Church or its reputation. Religious scholars react. Across theological circles, there's growing unease.